This is a moment in Jewish history. This week, the annual Israel Festival is taking place, with musicians and performers from Israel and around the world. It dates back to 1961 and was initiated by Aaron Zvi Propes. You may not have heard of him, but his influence in the world of Jewish and Israeli music is significant for creating the Israel Festival, as well as the International Harp Contest and the Zimriya World Choir Contest. It all started with the controversial Zionist leader Zev Jabotinsky. I was always interested in that classic black and white photo of Jabotinsky with a group of people including a young Menachem Begin, Israel's future prime minister, and some guy in the middle in a uniform. Who was he? Obviously not as famous as the other two, but that's the kid that inspired Jabotinsky to come out of retirement. Aaron Zvi Propes was considered the first member of Betar, the Zionist youth group that Zev Jabotinsky led. It inspired such future leaders as Menachem Begin, Yitzhak Shamir, and more, and all started from a small group of teenagers in Riga, Latvia. Aaron Zvi Propes and his high school friends were enamored with Jabotinsky and invited him to speak to their new youth group in 1923 they called the Organization of Active Zionist Youth, named for Yosef Trumpeldor. That became Brit Trumpeldor, or Betar. Jabotinsky was quoted as saying, "I saw there a young generation worth believing in." At that time, Jabotinsky was considered by his rivals to be a militant and a nationalist. He was the man who stood up to Arab terrorists and defended Jerusalem in 1920. He was arrested by the British and sentenced to jail for his self-defense units. He had the reputation of a fiery public speaker who warned Jews to leave Europe and move to Israel before it was too late. But at this stage in his life, he was fed up with the Zionist organization and its internal politics, and looking to retire and go back to writing poetry and plays. That all changed when he met the young idealistic youth of Riga and decided to form Betar. Propes was its first leader. In less than 10 years, Betar went from a small group in Riga to over 70,000 youth, with Poland, where Menachem Begin was from, having the most chapters. They promoted classes in self-defense, Hebrew, job training, and promoted poetry, songs, and literature. Propes moved to Israel in 1939, where he continued his Betar activities and was arrested by the British. They forced him out of the country, and he arrived in the United States, where he helped set up Betar there and helped form the aviation school for Jewish pilots. Upon returning to Israel, he pursued his passion for music. Propes was not a musician himself, yet today there are 3 lasting music institutions he initiated. The first was called the Zimriya World Assembly of Choirs in Israel. Let's read from an article from 1955 about the first Zimriya concert. The International Zimriya Choral Festival opened here last night with 1,500 persons from many countries singing for a huge audience, including the Prime Minister and Speaker of the Knesset, members of Parliament, and diplomats from many countries. 6 choirs from Israel were joined by singers from the United States, Italy, France, Turkey, Britain, and Yugoslavia, in a selection of Jewish and Hebrew songs. The concert was the first ever presented in the Mann Auditorium, the new home of the Israel Philharmonic Orchestra. The following year, prizes were announced for the best compositions in the following themes: Jerusalem, the establishment of Israel, ingathering of the exiles, and land redemption. In 1973, the Russian New Immigrant Choir began the concert with the song Prisoners of Zion. The most recent Zimriya Festival took place in Akko and marked the 70th anniversary and featured Jewish-themed pieces as well as well-known classical compositions. Propes also founded the International Harp Contest in Israel, the first of which was held in 1959. It's been held every 3 years since, the next one scheduled for 2025. The first contest featured a piece by Israeli composer Paul Ben Chaim. At the first competition, Samuel Rubin, president of the America-Israel Cultural Foundation, was honored for his role in reviving the popularity of King David's ancient instrument. He was the founder of the Jerusalem Academy of Music and Dance. 33 contestants from 11 countries participated. The winners of the most recent competition, held in 2021, came from China, Portugal, Germany, Russia, and the United Kingdom. The most well-known creation from Aaron Zvi Propes was the Israel Festival. The first was held in 1961 in Caesarea, in the ancient Roman theater. Built during the time of King Herod the Great 2,000 years ago, Propes was instrumental in turning the ruins into a functional theater again. The Israel Festival served as its inaugural performance. Here's an article from the Jewish Telegraphic Agency from 1961. Israel's first international music festival concluded here tonight with a concert by the Israel Philharmonic Orchestra conducted by Pablo Casals. The highlight of the festival was a performance last night by the world-famous cellist in the recently excavated 2,000-year-old Roman theater at Caesarea, in the presence of some 1,500 persons who occupied almost every inch of space on the ancient stone terraces, in the center of which a musician's platform was built for the occasion. The special concert last night also featured Isaac Stern and the Budapest Quartet. That year marked 13 years since the State of Israel became independent from the British, and it was celebrated at the festival as Israel's Bar Mitzvah year in a special cantata performance by Darius Milhaud, the famous French composer. The festival was held in Caesarea until it moved to its new center in Jerusalem, where it is still held every year. Aaron Zvi Propes headed the festival for its first 15 years. Music, theater, dance, and other performances from talented Israelis and people from around the world have been featured over the years. This year, the festival will feature special performances and tributes for the events of October 7th and the ongoing Operation Swords of Iron, with opening events being held in the southern Israeli cities of Sderot, Ofakim, Kibbutz Dorot, and other locations, featuring some of Israel's most successful musicians. The week-long festival will close with special events in Jerusalem. This has been a moment in Jewish history. For questions or comments and past shows, you can visit benbresky.substack.com. Thank you to all the listeners, and Shalom.